didn't think I was going to be able to do this, but I could hear my dad saying, "You did it for your mom. You better do it again." There was always a competition with my parents, and I was slap in the middle. When my mom left this world on August the 30th, she said to me, "Lori, I know I'm leaving you with a full plate, taking care of your daddy, but you're going to have to watch over him or he's going to get into bad trouble." So I told my son, I said, "You're his boy, and don't think I'm going to be on my own doing this. You're going to have to help me." When she first said this, I thought, well, Dad is 81 years old now, so surely he cannot get into that much trouble. 1 week ago, he called me, and after some small talk, I was wondering why he was calling so early. He said, "Lori, this is your daddy." It was always, "Daddy." That was just an introduction to something bigger to come. "You're not going to like this, but I'm going fishing by myself tomorrow." And I said, "No, you're not. No, you're not." And he quickly said, "Oh, yes, I am. And I already have my boat packed. I'm just telling you so you'll know where I am." I learned from my father you truly never knew where he would be, what he would be doing, or what he was going to come home with a mess. What kind of mess. But he always came home. My father was the hardest working man I've ever met. He taught me not to procrastinate. Procrastination, he said, was the root of all evil. If something needed doing, you act now. My children can tell you, I told them the same. He would not make excuses for work. He would get up with a plan and attack it. I never met anyone that could outwork him. Never. When he finished high school, you could tell none of us read each other's speeches, so we're all going to kind of, I'm sorry for that. He joined the Air Reserve because of his servant's heart. He completed his commitment after active duty to Paris, France in '62, and then he finished a career tech certification in print press operated. This led him to my mom in Birmingham, where he began working at Progressive Farmer, which is now Southern Living. When Dad met her, he told us he thought she looked exactly like Elizabeth Taylor, and he had to have her. He was going to make her go out with him one way or another. The trouble was that she had been dating a guy named Joe for several years. But Dad did not procrastinate. He started bringing her food, and he made her laugh. He then talked her into going out of the building for lunch. She left my dad a note one evening explaining that he was nice and all, but that she could not hurt Joe's feelings by breaking up with him. So Dad went to her house and he met her dad. And he waited for Mom to arrive home after her date with Joe. And my papa fell in love with my dad. And he told my mom, "You better give this fella a chance. He knows how to farm." Mom told Dad she wanted to date him, but she just did not know how to break up with Joe. So Dad said, "Oh, it'll be fine. I'll do it." They married 4 months later. My mom and Dad created a happy home. We played music, we sang, we danced. My dad loved to dance. He knocked my head off one time because I don't know if Dawn and Dana remembers this, but you know, one of y'all had a band, and my dad was just bent on getting out there on that dance floor, and I had just had Joshua, and I was not in great shape. And he spun me around. He loved to do the jitterbug, and his hand came right. I thought he had knocked my head off, and he had no sympathy. He told me to get up. But we had a happy home. The work ethic of my dad was outstanding. He started his own printing business and would work from 7 a.m. literally until midnight, most days. He and my mom built a great business and obtained the contract for Davy Allison. Most of us are too young to know who he was, but he was a big NASCAR driver. I remember them getting tickets and going to the races a lot. I never saw a man work harder for his family than my dad. After we moved down to Headland, he took over my grandfather's farm, but he needed insurance for us. So he worked all day at Florida Microfilm, and then he came home, he would eat supper, he would get dressed, and he'd go straight to the field and farm until midnight. It's just crazy how long he did this. But it allowed him to buy more acreage for the farm, pay off his house, buy 2 rental homes that he kept for nearly 20 years. Even though I encouraged him to sell, he said, no, that's my retirement. And he sold them in the last 2 years. In other words, he managed what the Lord gave him extremely well. And he was loyal to the Lord, and the Lord honored him. My dad was my constant. I knew he would always be there for me. He never turned me down with anything I needed. And if he did, I'd just call back the next day. And he'd change his mind. He loved the adventures that we would take, from snow skiing. That was hilarious. Kayaking. That was really even funnier. River rafting, mountain hiking, fishing, and camping. He would do them all, and he kept our family laughing the whole time. All he wanted was his family to be together. And after a while, he would tell us, all right, now it's time for all the mouses to go back to their houses. Would y'all come back tomorrow? Mr. Thomas Kirkland helped me considerably to keep my dad out of trouble. After Dad took the power pole down with his cotton picker for the 3rd time, I was following Dad behind the tractor, blowing the horn, watching the power pole swing back and forth across the road, praying the whole time no one would come in the opposite direction. My father just kept driving on. Thought those little bumps that he was feeling was just the wind. Thomas saw all the commotion from his back driveway, and he stayed there until it was safe to get out on the road. And Dad followed him, and he followed Dad into the field. I got out of the car, and Thomas said to me, "Now, Lori, don't be too hard on him." He didn't know. Thomas talked to Dad a while, and then he said, "Lamar, can I have this pole?" I have had so many laughs over that one. There was never a day my dad would not help someone in need. He would graciously give whatever he had to make someone's life better. He truly had a servant's heart. Our family was blessed by this workhorse of a man. His legacy of loyalty, generosity, compassion, and an extension of grace will never be forgotten. He raised my children as his own. He would love them, discipline them. He held my son up 3 days after he was born and said, "This is my boy." He thought of Joshua as the son he never had. And when Rachel came along, she was just the icing on his cake. He was so proud of both of them. When Rachel and Chris gave us Anna Lee, my dad's heart would melt as she would run to him saying, "Papa, Papa." He loved his family all around his table. He loved shucking us oysters and watching the Alabama and Auburn games. Even though there was plenty of times we would all have to exit the room because we thought he was going to implode. We loved him. Life will not be the same without this comedian in our lives. Life is now very different. Joshua and I encountered a really dark place on Wednesday afternoon, and it's going to take prayer and cleansing of our mind to erase this horrific scene. But I do know the Lord was with my father. Throughout this tragedy, my dad never complained of pain. He asked me, "Why do you keep asking me if I'm hurting, Lori?" He didn't know how bad the situation was. He never knew. During the ambulance ride to the ER, I prayed with him. I prayed that the Lord would have mercy on him. And I asked him to cover him. My dad said amen, and that he loved me. That was God's beautiful, merciful grace. The ER doctor told me he argued with them about placing the breathing tube in. Dad said he was breathing fine and he didn't need it. That was God's extension, hand of grace. After he arrived in Birmingham and completed the surgery, they allowed me to stay by his side. I was able to sing with him, pray over him, speak words of love to him throughout the night. It was just me and him. That was God's faithful grace. The next day they prepared us for death to linger after the breathing tube was removed, but he didn't. He traced distant into his heavenly home within minutes, very peacefully and without suffering. That was the grace of Jesus, leading him home. There's a lot of people that will try to turn this horrible situation around and ask, how could the Lord be in the midst of something like this? Well, Lamar and Rister's family knows Jesus covered my dad.
Amen.
He covered him with merciful grace throughout this whole situation. And I dare anybody to try the same thing without Christ. He was awake, alert, in no pain, was not aware of the extent of his injuries, and he left this world with a twinge of smile on his face. Of course he did. He knew his great reunion day with Elizabeth Taylor was about to begin. And he would be made whole again. Can you imagine my dad on the streets of gold, running all over heaven, laughing, hugging, singing? I don't think Jesus knew what he was in for. Pray for our family as we learn to live life without these precious souls in it. They were larger than life, and there will be a huge hole in our hearts. We will keep their memories alive and continue to walk in the love they shared with us for so long. Thank you all for your prayers, your texts, your calls, your food, and your hugs. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love you.